had a good week. I hope you've come looking for the Lord to do something this morning. He will, more times than not, if we come looking for Him. Appreciate Him being good to us. He's a good God this morning. We'll not be able to complain. No, we don't understand a lot of things that happen sometimes, but He's still God, still in control of it. Hey, everything's going to be all right because He's still God this morning. Amen. Tell you what, there's a lot of folks needs prayer this morning, and tell you what, I think we're coming around the altar this morning to have an old-fashioned altar of prayer. A lot of folks in the church needs prayers. Some facing surgery this week. I believe we ought to pray for each other. We love each other, pray for each other, keep each other in our minds. Folks got some young'uns got problems going on, sickness, different things. Hey, let's come around this altar this morning to pray for each other. Pray for our nation. Hey, what never hurts to pray too much in heaven service. Pray for each other this morning. I desire your prayers. I believe everybody in this building does. Lord, we come before you once again to thank you for this another opportunity. I thank you for the privilege to come around this altar this morning, dear Lord. I know prayer works. I know you said we have not because we ask not. You said ask and you shall receive. And I know, dear God, that we just simply need to ask you this morning to help each one in this building. Lord, those people in this building facing things this week, dear Lord, they may not expect it. But I pray you'd give them comfort, give them grace and mercy, dear God. Help them, help their families. I pray for these that are facing things they didn't expect this year, dear God. Pray for these children that are sick, that you touch their bodies, help their mom and dads through this time. Help those in this church, dear Lord, that are facing sicknesses right now and different things. Pray to help them. Pray to help the doctors, dear God, when they're doing things, dear God, you give them wisdom and knowledge. Dear Lord, help us here this morning, dear God. We need you. I need you for a little while. I need your wisdom. I need your direction. And I pray, dear God, that you'll just touch someone in this building this morning. They can leave here saying it's been good to be here, something to be said to help them and encourage them. Dear God, I need you more than I ever have in my life, dear God, right now. Just pray and help us. Give us that we need to say a little while this morning. Bless each one that's in this altar. Touch their prayers. And I pray these prayers, dear God, to go to the throne room. You'll take them to the Father, dear Lord, and plead our cause. And dear God, do that you said you would, dear God. And I just want to thank you for loving us. Thank you for saving us. And thank you for Calvary most of all. Because in Jesus' name we pray. Amen and amen. Good to pray and talk to Him this morning. We need to pray a lot more than what we do. Prayer still works. God made us a lot of promises in this book. We just simply do things we said. Just keep praying. Everything will be all right this morning. Good to be here. Got your Bible? Turn over to the book of Nehemiah, chapter number 4. Nehemiah's right after the book of Ezra. Nehemiah, chapter number 4. We're going to read down through this whole chapter real quickly this morning. Nehemiah chapter 4. Ask me to be much in prayer for us a little while this morning, Lord, to help us. Nehemiah chapter 4. Tell you what, you study the life of these Old Testament prophets, men like Nehemiah. Hey, we need some men like that again in the day and time we live. These men had a backbone. Hey, they loved God, wanted to serve Him, loved God's people. Nehemiah was a man that got a burden over his people. You'll see here in this chapter, chapter number 4, Nehemiah chapter 4, verse number 1. It said, "But it came to pass that when Sanballat heard that we builded the wall as he was wroth, took great indignation, and mocked the Jews. And he spake before his brethren and the army of Samaria, and said, What do these feeble Jews? Will they fortify themselves? Will they sacrifice? Will they make an end in a day? Will they receive the stones out of the heaps of the rubbish which are burned? Now Tobo and the Ammonites was by him, and said, Even that which they build, if a fox go up, he shall even break down their stone wall. Hear, O our God, for we are despised, and turn their reproach upon their own head, and give them for a prey in the land of captivity. And cover not their iniquity, and let not their sin be blotted out from before thee. For they have provoked thee to anger before the builders. So built we the wall, and all the wall was joined together unto the half thereof, for the people had a mind to work. But it came to pass that when Sanballat and Tobiah and the Arabians and the Ammonites and the Ashdodites heard that the walls of Jerusalem were made up, and that the breaches began to be stopped, then they were very wroth, and conspired all of them together to come and to fight against Jerusalem and to hinder it. Nevertheless, we made our prayer to our God, and set a watch against them day and night because of them. And Judah saith, the strength of the bearers of the burdens is decayed, and there is much rubbish, so that we are not able to build a wall. And our adversaries said, they shall not know neither see, till we come in the midst among them and slay them and cause the work to cease. And it came to pass that when the Jews which dwelt by them came, they said unto us times for all places, whence ye shall return unto us, they will be upon you. Therefore said I, in the lower places behind the wall, and on the higher places, I even set the people after their families with their swords, their spears, and their bows. And I looked and rose up, and said unto the nobles, unto the rulers, unto the rest of the people, Be not ye afraid of them. Remember the Lord, which was great and terrible, and fight for your brethren, your sons and your daughters, and your wives and your houses. And it came to pass, when our enemies heard that it was known unto us, and God had brought their counsel to naught, that we returned all of us to the wall, every one unto his work. And it came to pass from that time forth, that the half of my servants wrought in the work, and the other half of them held both the spears and the shields, and the bows and the habergeons, and the rulers were behind all the house of Judah. They which builded on the wall, and they that bear burdens with those that laid, every one with one of his hands wrought in the work, and with the other hand held a weapon. For the builders, every one had his sword girded by his side, and so builded. And he that sounded the trumpet was by me. And I said unto the nobles, unto the rulers, unto the rest of the people, the work is great and large, and we are separated upon the wall, one far from another. In what place therefore you hear the sound of the trumpet, resort ye thither unto us. Our God shall fight for us. So we labored in the work, and half of them held the spears from the rising of the morning till the stars appeared. Likewise at the same time said I unto the people, Let every one with his servant lodge within Jerusalem, that in the night they may be a guard to us and a labor on the day. So neither I nor my brethren nor my servants nor the men of guard which followed me, none of us put off our clothes, saving that every one put them off for washing. Now, there's a lot going on here in Nehemiah chapter number 4. And you know, Nehemiah was a great man of God when you study about this man. He was a man that was real close to the king. You know, he was the king's cupbearer according to the Bible. His job was to taste whatever the king was drinking to make sure it wasn't poison. How'd you like to have that job? I mean, he was putting his own life on the line for the king, being the cupbearer. I mean, this was a man, when you study about Nehemiah, he was a man that had a lot of humility about him, a lot of integrity. And you'll look at what's going on in this chapter, he had a lot of patriotism about him, had a lot of energy. He was an unselfish man when you study about Nehemiah. I mean, he was a great man of God, and when you look at him, you know, he had a lot of great leadership abilities. For somebody back in this day, I guess you could say his leadership abilities and how he organized things in Nehemiah chapter number 4 was probably unmatched by any of these other people during that time. He had a lot of qualities of a great man of God. Hey, these men in the Old Testament, these Old Testament prophets, these preachers, hey, they had something we don't have today. They believed in God. Hey, you look at what goes on in chapter 4, man, Nehemiah had to believe in God. He was a special type of man that God had chose out. And you go back over, you don't have to turn, but just get you up to speed what's going on here. Back over in Nehemiah chapter number 1. Nehemiah learns some things about the condition of Israel, about the condition of the city of Jerusalem, and about the condition of the Jews. You know, during this time, if you remember, the Jews were under the Babylonian captivity. You remember, God would bless His people. He'd bless the Jews abundantly. Next thing you know, He'd turn their back. They'd turn their back on Him. Then they'd wind up in captivity. They were under Babylon captivity at this time. But during that captivity, some of those folks had escaped. There was a remnant had went back to Jerusalem. Now, when they were under captivity, King Nebuchadnezzar, man, he destroyed Jerusalem, tore the walls down. According to the Bible, there was nothing but rubbish there. And Nehemiah had learned that some of this remnant had escaped, and they went back to Jerusalem. Hey, they had a mess when they got back there. It looked like a bomb had went off. All the walls was tore down, big blocks laying everywhere. Nehemiah had heard about this, and Nehemiah got a burden over Jerusalem. You think about this man getting a burden. He began to weep over the condition of the city, condition of his people. Hey, in a sense, Nehemiah got a burden first over doing God's will. Then he got a burden over his country. Then he got a burden over his people. Hey, you don't see many people getting burdens like that anymore. Hey, you ever stopped and thought about it? How long's it been since you really got a burden over anybody that's lost? Really got a burden over your church? Hey, if we had a burden the way they folks used to, we'd lose some sleep. Hey, we'd stay on our knees a whole lot more praying over things if we had a burden. You'll hear people say, I wish God would give me a burden. Better be careful what you're asking for. Sometimes He might do it. You may begin to lose some sleep. Man, we need a burden again. This man got a burden over his country, got a burden over his people, got a burden over God, what God wanted him to do. He began to pray and ask God to forgive Israel, forgive the Jews for what they had done. Chapter number 1, he got this burden when he heard about these things. Then you go to Nehemiah chapter number 2. He had such a burden. He went to the king and asked for permission if he could go to Jerusalem and try to repair it, build the walls back. Hey, this man had a burden. Hey, he had such a burden that the king told him he could go, and the king also gave him materials to build it back. Hey, God had His hand in this. Hey, when you get a burden, God will give you some things to do something with. Chapter 2, he got the permission to go. Then chapter 3, he gets over to Jerusalem, and then the work begins on the walls of Jerusalem. Begin to put this thing back together. Hey, this was a mess when he got there. I mean, I don't know how they built those walls the way they did back in those days, as big as those stones is. Didn't have the equipment the way we do, but man, they had a mind to do things. They figured out how to do it. Hey, we got technology today, man, that these folks didn't have, and they still built those walls back in that day. They roll into chapter number 4, chapter number 3, the work begins, and they roll into chapter 4 here where we just read this morning. The work begins, but something happens in chapter number 4. The work gets disrupted. That wall's half built, you'll find out. There down in about chapter and verse number 6, the Bible said, so we built the wall, and all the walls joined together into half thereof. They got half this wall built, and something happened. Something disrupted their work. The work totally stopped. And there's one thing I believe that stopped these people's work when you look in Nehemiah chapter number 4. And this one thing, you better be real careful this morning, this one thing can strike anybody at any time. I'll tell you what it is in just a minute, but this one thing will strike you unexpectedly sometimes. It don't respect anybody. And this one thing that I'm talking about this morning, man, it affects church people. It affects pastors. It affects leaders. It affects followers. Let me say, it'll sap you this morning. It'll take all the energy you've got out of you. It'll consume your strength. It'll distort your vision. And then some people even get sick from it sometimes. And it's just one word, and that's discouragement. Hey, there was some things went on in this chapter that discouraged these people. Hey, they were working good. The Bible said they had a mind to work, then it quit. Hey, you'll see here in just a minute, there were some things begin on early in chapter number 4 that began to discourage Nehemiah. It began to discourage the other Jews. Let me say, discouragement is something this morning that's kind of like a disease. It'll eat at you. Hey, I'm not preaching on something this morning that I don't know nothing about. Hey, we'll try to preach things sometimes we have no idea about. I know a little something about discouragement. I believe everybody in this world does if they're honest about it. It's something that'll hit you at any time. And there's a lot of things I believe at times it causes discouragement. You'll find in Nehemiah chapter number 4, there were some things that caused their discouragement. Hey, they had some difficult circumstances to take care of. Hey, you don't see too many people getting discouraged when things is going real good. When we're happy, we got plenty of money, we got this, that, or the other going on. We got plenty of friends, we got people patting us on the back. Hey, you don't see too much discouragement when things is going on like that. But all of a sudden, something will pop up in our life, something we didn't expect, a difficult circumstance, and we have some discouragement. You know, we're real good at looking at people a lot of times and don't even really know what's going on with them, don't know their circumstances, don't even know much about them, and we'll look at them and say, what's wrong with them? Why are they acting the way they're acting? You know, we're real good at doing stuff like that sometimes. You ever stop and thought? Some things may discourage you that don't discourage other people. Hey, there may be something that discourages me that don't discourage Brother Lonnie. There may be something pop up in my life that may get me down and out that don't do that to you. But we're real good at looking at people sometimes, don't know the circumstance, and say, well, what's wrong with them? Hey, you know, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors in homes a lot of times. All we see what goes on in here, what goes out in the world. We don't know what goes on when they go home. Man, there's things that may discourage somebody else that don't discourage you. And man, that's circumstances. A lot of times it may be beyond their control. Hey, they were circumstances going on here in Nehemiah 4 that brought discouragement to the Jews in Nehemiah. You look in verse number 1 through verse number 2 in Nehemiah 4, man, there's some opposition pops up. There's a man by the name of Sanballat here. He's a ruler of Samaria back in Nehemiah's day. Look what this man did. He popped up and began to oppose Nehemiah and the Jews. Hey, there's a circumstance right there, opposition, that can bring discouragement. Hey, they were making fun of the Jews. They were mocking the Jews. Hey, they didn't want these walls built back. They were opposed to it. You know, anything that you do for God, anything that's good in this world, the devil hates it, and he's going to oppose you. So let me tell you, anytime you start doing anything for God, don't expect it to be a smooth road. Opposition will come. Hey, opposition's going to come from places you least expect it sometimes, and it'll cause discouragement. Hey, man, friends will bring opposition to you sometimes that you didn't expect. Hey, I'm not trying to preach doom. I'm going to try to encourage you here in just a minute, because, man, we've got discouragement on every hand, and opposition will pop up. It's a shame that opposition will pop up sometimes from places you didn't expect. Opposition will pop up in the family sometimes. Opposition will pop up from folks you thought were your friends sometimes. Then find out they never were really your friend. Hey, opposition, you look at the opposition, man, from a lot of different people. You look in verse number 3, how this opposition worked, and it brought discouragement. Or you look down about verse number 3 here. It says, now Tobal the Ammonite was made by him. And Ammonite was by him, and he said, even that which they build, if a fox go up, it shall even break down through the stone wall. Look what opposition's doing here. They're ridiculing the people of Israel. They're mocking them. They're laughing at them. They're saying, well, they can't build a wall out there, so the fox will even go through it if they build it. They're laughing at them. You know, opposition a lot of times, they were taunting the Jews, making fun of them. You know, words a lot of times hurts worse than any other thing. Hey, they've been people that's totally been destroyed by words. Hey, you can kill somebody sometimes through your words. You don't have to take a gun and destroy them or not. You can kill them with this tongue. This tongue is deadly. It's poison. It's something, man, that man's never been able to control is this old tongue. You know, we need to bite this tongue a lot of times. Man, they were ridiculing the Jews, and it brought discouragement. Them out there working hard as they can to build this back. Then this other crowd begins to laugh at them, begins to mock. Have you ever seen as much ridicule as we've got right now toward the church? Hey man, the media, all they want to do is ridicule. It brings discouragement. TV shows, all they want to do is ridicule toward God's people or toward the church anymore. You know, it brings discouragement sometimes. Even you'll find ridicule inside the house of God sometimes. You'll find one that wants to ridicule another. They know how to do this better than the other one knows how to do it. And you know, that brings discouragement. It gets people to the place sometimes they just want to simply give up. Hey, we don't need to give up this morning. We need to look up because we got a big God. Right. Hey, you look at, they're getting discouraged right here. They've been made fun of over this wall, been ridiculed, got all this opposition coming at them. And look at something else right here that brought some discouragement. You look down at about verse number 10. The Bible said, and Judah said, the strength of the bearers of burdens is decayed, and there is much rubbish, so that we are not able to build a wall. Look right here. They had an overwhelming problem that caused discouragement. The Bible talked about, man, the rubbish they had. Hey, could you imagine what it looked like when Nebuchadnezzar tore those walls down? Hey, they had a mess to come back to. It had to be discouraging. They had to move all this rubbish out of the way before that they could ever, you think about before they could ever even do anything. Hey, you can't work when there's a mess like that around. Hey, you can't do anything. They was going to have to bring these other blocks in, get them through all that mess. They had to clean all that up first. That had to be discouraged. Don't know how long it took to do that. You know, me and you as Christians this morning spiritually, we got a lot of rubbish we ought to clean up. Hey, there's a lot of things that discourages us. We got rubbish of sin. Hey, you get sin in your life, it's going to discourage you. You ain't going to be able to do nothing for God till you clean the rubbish up. Hey, they couldn't build till that rubbish was cleaned up. They couldn't do anything. And you know, we've got to the place anymore, as far as sin, we've got accustomed to it. We've got real used to it. We don't want to clean it up. We don't want to make things right with God. We don't want to repent. We've got content just going on the way we are. You think about it. We've got accustomed and used to a lot of things. Hey, we need to clean this rubbish up. It brought discouragement to the life of these people. You know, this rubbish of sin will bring discouragement to your family, others around you, those that love you. People don't realize, man, what sin does to a family. You know, my sin's going to affect what the next 4 generations, according to this Bible. My children, their children, right on down the line. They're going to be affected by it. You know, the rubbish of sin affects the house of God. It affects the power of God. It affects the preaching. It affects the singing. Hey, we got to have clean hearts. Man, they were discouraged. Never seen a day in time that people so discouraged as they are right now. I mean, everywhere you look, you cut the TV on the news, it's going to discourage you. Man, our homes are in such a mess, man, it's discouraging. I mean, we've got this epidemic, man, it's running rampant with the drugs right now. It's affecting just about every family coming and going. Hey, it's discouraging. Man, we've got an epidemic. We looked around, used to just think it was these young people with the drugs and different things, the opioids, the meth and all this stuff, but it's every age group. It's working its way right on up through it anymore. I believe folks are getting so discouraged, they're looking for a way out anywhere they can find it. But they're looking in the wrong places. They're not looking to God. Hey, a lot of these folks has been pushed down so much so by the Christian people, they ain't got nowhere else to go. Man, we're going to stand in judgment for a lot of things the way we've treated people. Man, they've got a soul just like anybody else that needs to be saved. But we need to get this rubbish out of the way, the discouragement. You notice also right here, a lack of progress can cause discouragement. You see in verse 6, man, they were building that wall, got halfway done and quit. Hey, that was a discouraging thing. It had to discourage Nehemiah to get halfway done and quit. Them people had been working, had a mind to work, then all of a sudden quit. Hey, that had to be discouraging. That's a lot like us. We'll get on fire for God. We'll do something for a month or two, work hard as we can, then we just quit. Hey, that's discouraging around other Christians to see people do that. That's discouraging for the men of God. When folks get on fire for God, they work for a while and just quit. Hey, that's discouraging. Lost people look at things like that. You know, there's something wrong when a church stops progressing. Hey, we need to progress. We need to go forward. When we get used to the same old routines and stuff, there's something wrong with it. I believe we ought to do things decently in order, but we get used to just doing this, and that. Hey, we ought to progress into things. We get in these ruts sometimes. We'll progress so far and we don't go any farther. Them same old routines, man, we get into them. And you know what? It gets discouraging sometimes. Hey, you look down in verse number 11, there was some things discouraged them. Verse number 11 said, and our adversaries said, they shall not know, neither see, till we come in the midst among them and slay them and cause the work to cease. Hey, that was the fear of the unknown right there that brought discouragement. There was a threat they could possibly be murdered and killed when the enemy come in. Hey, that was fear of the unknown. You know, a lot of folks has got that fear. You know, we don't know what tomorrow holds. But I do know the one that holds it. Hey, tomorrow may have Jesus coming back. We don't know. But the fear of the unknown, man, brings discouragement sometimes. Back over in verse 2, you saw the criticism, how that it brought discouragement. You look in verse number 12, and it said, and it came to pass that when the Jews which dwelt by them came, they said unto us time for all places which you shall return unto us, they shall be upon you. Look what's happening there in verse number 12. There's an uncertainty about the future, worry about tomorrow. But they're being undermined by the ones that ought to be supporting them, their own people, the Jews. I mean, you think about that. The ones that should have been encouraging them was bringing discouragement. Hey, man, they had fear of their friends here now. You know, you better be careful who your friends are. Hey, when you get down sometimes, you'll find out in life who your friends really are. Some things will happen, something will go on. And the folks that you thought were your friends really weren't your friends. Hey, these folks should have been supporting them, backing them up. They should have been patting them on the back, should have been praying for them, cheering them on. But man, when those that should be backing you brings discouragement, man, that's something that hurts more than anything in the world. Man, I found some things out about that the last few years. Man, I found folks that I thought was my friends, some men that I thought was close as my brother. Hey, when they stab that knife in your back, you find out really who your friends are. And that's something you carry around with you for a long time. You get to the place, seems like it's hard to trust anybody. And I'd say if most of us in this building was honest this morning, I mean really honest, how many true friends you've got, you probably couldn't hold up that many fingers. I mean down to the point where you really people you can really trust. I'd be probably pretty safe to say most people couldn't hold up over one or two probably people that they really trust. And a friend, somebody you can tell anything, not worry about them telling nobody else. Think about that real closely. How many people have you got in the world like that? Hey, these folks should have been backing them up, should have been loving them, should have been cheering them on. They were doing God's work. But they just brought discouragement. Said, you're going to be killed. You ain't got no chance past tomorrow. You know that old saying people used to say, you ain't got nothing good to say or not say it at all. Hey, they ought to be an encouragement to these people. They were doing God's work. But look at the symptoms of this discouragement down about verse number 10. The Bible said, and Judah said, the strength of the bearers of burdens is decayed. Hey, it was talking about that foundation right there. Man, they had a loss of strength right here in what was holding them walls up. You know, a lot of times, man, we'll have symptoms of encouragement. We'll lose our strength a lot of times what we're doing for God. That's the reason these walls fell. They lost their strength, lost their foundation when they tore them down. Hey, me and you get that way sometimes. We get a symptom of discouragement when we lose our strength. How much strength have we really got? Man, we need to work on our foundation. Hey man, if you ain't doing things on this foundation of this book, you're on the wrong foundation. You ain't building your home up on this foundation, you're building up on the sand according to this Bible. When that storm comes, it's going to wash away. Man, we need to strengthen each other again. We need to get our strength back. When you see the people discouraged, they ain't got much strength. And you know, it's sad to say, man, we got some of these groups, we'll see people get down and out. They'll want to push them down farther and farther. Want to blame everything on them that's going on. Hey, when folks get down and out, pick them up. Right. Hey, they may have failed in sin, but we don't need to push them down. We need to keep picking them up. Hey, man, when folks lose their strength also, man, they're going to lose their vision. Hey, look what these people was doing. They was looking at the rubble. They was looking at the rubbish. Because they said in there is much rubbish so that we are not able to build the wall. They lost their vision. They was looking at all the junk, all the rubbish, but they quit looking at the wall. Hey man, we need some people that's got some vision. The Bible said where there's no vision, the people perish. Hey, we need to build some walls again around our homes, around our church. Man, we need some vision back again. We need to get a good vision of God. Need to get a good vision of Calvary. Need to get a good vision of the resurrection. Hey, we need to get a good vision of what He done for us when He saved us. Pulled our sorry souls out of hell, where we ought to be, and let us go to heaven one day. Hey, we need to get a vision. What's going on around us in this world? Man, they had lost their vision. They wasn't looking at the wall anymore. Just looking at the decay. Hey, it's real easy to do that in the world we live in. Just quit looking everything that's good and look at the bad and lose your vision. Hey, when that happens, you're going to lose confidence. They lost confidence in verse 10. It said, so that we were not able to build a wall. Hey, they had a heart for the work to begin with and said, we can't do this. Hey, you know this book teaches us that all things are possible with God. They ain't nothing too hard for them. Hey, they lost their confidence. I'm afraid a lot of times we're losing our confidence in God. Hey, they weren't no longer motivated to do anything. You see, we see that happen around a lot of churches. We just lose our confidence. Hey, we need to get that confidence back in the big God we've got because all things are possible. You see in verse 11, they lost their security also. The Bible said, and our adversary said, they shall not know neither seed till we come in the midst among them and slay them and cause the work to cease. Hey, they weren't sure about their security anymore. There weren't any walls there to protect them. They were doing this work to get the walls built back up, but they had lost their security. Hey, they was ready to quit. Hey, we need to realize how secure we are this morning. Hey, we're in God's hands. We don't need to be discouraged. Hey, we're safe this morning. Hey, we're as good as already in heaven. Hey, John's already seen us there in the book of Revelation. Hey, man, no matter what comes our way, if we leave this world by the grave this week, if we're saved, we're a winner. Hey, this old world ain't got nothing to offer them that are saved. Hey, to leave this world, man, just to graduate, to get a new body. No more sickness, no more health. I mean, the health will be good then. No more dying. They lost their security. But look, there's a cure in this chapter also for discouragement. Look down about verse 14 and look what Nehemiah said. He said, and I looked and rose up and said unto the nobles and to the rulers and to the rest of the people, be not ye afraid of them. Remember the Lord, which is great and terrible, and fight for your brother and your sons and your daughters and your wives and your houses. You know a cure for discouragement this morning is just reaffirming God. Look at who God really is. Recall who God is. Hey, Nehemiah told them not to be afraid. He said, remember the Lord. He said, He's great and terrible and will fight for the brethren. Hey, we need to remember how powerful He is and who's in control. Nehemiah said, man, there's a cure for this discouragement. He said, look up. He said, He's still God. He said, you need to recall the things that God has said and the promises He's made. Hey, God can't fail this morning. He's never failed in anything He's ever done. He's accomplished everything that He set out to do. Some folks say, well, He's a failure at Calvary. No. He set out to die. And the third day He arose. He never failed. Hey, we serve a God that's never failed this morning, never broke a promise. Hey, we were to recall the things that God's already done for us. Israel forgot about, man, how He brought them out of Egypt. How He led them out through the blood. How He led them out through the Red Sea. How He took care of them out when they was wandering around there for 40 years. He still took care of them. Let the clothes grow on their back, shoes on their feet. Let the manna fall down. Give them the quail to eat daily. Hey, Nehemiah saying, you need to recall who God is. Hey, man, we need to recall sometimes when we get discouraged who God really is. He's still God. How else do you describe Him? He's God. He's all-powerful. He's the Creator. Hey, man, He's the one that's got the holy blood to get us to heaven. Hey, when you start to get discouraged, and I know these things are going to discourage us from time to time. We're human. I mean, them things happen. But when it does, we need to recall how God's already brought us through things. Hey, folks in here, you could probably, everybody in this building could raise your hand and say, God's brought me through something. God's brought me through something else. God's brought me through another trial. God brought me through the valley when I was in it. Let me get back on the mountain. Hey, them valleys may seem wide sometimes, but He's still God of the valley and He's still God of the mountain. Hey, some of them valleys is to help us grow sometimes and learn how good God is. You know, some of them valleys sometimes that you've come through may be to help somebody else when they're going through it, to encourage them. We don't understand all these valleys, what they're for. But man, there is a cure for this discouragement. You look in verse 13. And the Bible said, therefore said I, in the lower places behind the wall and on the higher places, I even set the people after their family with their swords and spears and their bows. Hey, Nehemiah said, we need to refocus here a little bit. We need to organize this a little bit better. He said, if they're going to attack, I'm going to set this thing up where we can watch for them. Nehemiah's saying, man, there's some of you going to work and there's some of you going to hold weapons to protect the others. Hey, Nehemiah's saying, man, we need to recommit this effort. Down in verse 14 through 17. I ain't going to take the time to read all that, but you know Nehemiah told them not to be afraid. There was a great God, a terrible God. Hey, Hey, and Nehemiah's telling them, man, some of you are going to hold spears. Some of you are going to hold shields. Some of you are going to hold bows, and we're going to return to work. We're going to refocus our efforts. And we're going to have a renewed determination down through verse 19 through 20. He told them in verse 19, the Bible said, and I said it to the nobles and to the rulers and to the rest of the people, the work is great and large, and we are separated up on the wall one from another. In what place, therefore, you hear the sound of the trumpet, restore ye hither unto us, and our God shall fight for us. Nehemiah said, hey, let's renew our determination. He said, man, if it's necessary, we're going to have to fight. We're going to have a backbone. Nehemiah's looking at them and said, man, our families is worth fighting for. We need to keep going and get this wall built. Hey, we need to be like that. We need to stop sometimes and reorganize a little bit and refocus and renew our determination and realize our family's worth fighting for. Nehemiah said, man, we're going to stand up. We're going to take care of each other. We're going to watch each other's backs. Hey, he said if the enemy comes for this wall and gets up, we're going to take care of it. Hey, we ought to be like that. When the enemy comes, man, we ought to be ready to take care of it. I know it's a shame the day and time we're living in, man. We've even got to watch the back doors of the church when we're in the church house. I mean, I don't take my eyes off that door a lot of times. There's been so many things happen in churches the last few years I watch. I'll look that way every now and then. Hey, man, we need some folks with a backbone. Somebody come in that back door to harm somebody, we ought to be willing to take them down. Hey, man, there's a lot of churches putting people outside on the porches anymore, and it's a good idea. They're putting them watching the parking lot. Somebody comes in and don't look right, man. Anymore, you got to watch people. You got to check them out. There's so too many of these crazies coming in with guns and everything, don't care what they do. I mean, man, we got to watch each other's backs in the day and time we're living in. I mean, I know we're living in perilous times. We're living in crazy times. Who would ever thought we'd have to do things like we do now? I mean, the devil's getting a hold of people's minds and they don't care what they do. Nehemiah said, man, when that enemy comes, man, we need to reinforce each other. He goes down in 21, in verse 21 through 23, says, so we labored in the work, and half of them held the spears from the rising of the morning till the stars appeared. Likewise at the same time said I unto the people, let every one with his servant lodge with Jerusalem, that in the night that they may guard to us and labor on the day. So neither I nor my brother and my servants, nor the men of guard which followed me, none of us put off our clothes, saving that every one put them off for washing. Hey, they were reviewing their focus right here. Hey, man, they got down to the place right here and said, man, we're getting our focus off self. And we're going to get our focus back on God and on this wall. And quit worrying about self, and we're going to work together. Here's saying we need to get lost in this job again. Man, we need to get lost in Jesus again. Nehemiah said they didn't even take their clothes off during this time other than just to wash them. Hey, they got so focused on putting this wall back up where they could be safe. And man, they began to work together. Man, they watched each other's backs. Hey, man, they knew there was an enemy out there. But man, they got refocused and got out of this situation of discouragement and had a new determination about it. Hey, I know discouragement, son, is something that'll take you down. It's something that'll lead at you. Hey, it'll take your sleep away from you, rest away from you. Hey, I don't know what anybody in this building is going through. I said earlier this morning, we'll look at folks a lot of times and say, well, what's wrong with them? Hey, you better not pass judgment real quick. Hey, there's some things brings discouragement to some people that don't others. There's some things that bothers people that don't others. But there's something that'll come your way one day that will discourage you. There's things that'll disappoint you. Man, these folks get discouraged about their children, about the way they're living in different things. And man, that's a mom and daddy's heart right there. They love them. But man, God will help you through them things. We just need to give them to God and let Him take control of them. I want to stand to our feet for just a minute this morning by our